When celebrities and public figures make headlines for repeating self-sabotaging behavior, think Anthony Weiner, Lindsay Lohan, and Chris Brown, to name a few, what exactly is going on? Our next guest says poor judgment leads them to make the same negative choices. And here with advice about judgment and decision-making skills that we can all use is Krishna Pendyala, author of Beyond the Pig and the Ape and founder of the ChoiceLadder Institute. Welcome, Krishna. So good to have you here.
So good to be here, Tanya. Thank you.
Such an interesting topic. What exactly compels celebrities and politicians and normal people, for that matter, to repeatedly engage in behavior that is clearly self-sabotaging?
See, the issue really is there's a distinction between repeatedly and doing it for the first time. So for the first time you do it, many of occasions it's your drives that compel you towards pleasure or away from pain that drive you, or to preserve an image that you've set up for yourself. But the real issue is, I think, why we struggle with understanding this is because in our society today, we tend to correlate success to intelligence, when really the IQ or rational intelligence is limiting. There are other intelligences involved. For example, over the last 2 decades, thanks to the work of Daniel Goleman, things like emotional intelligence gain popularity, where how do people deal with their emotions? But I think today we got to consider yet another intelligence, which I call how do you make what is the quality of your choices and your judgment. And I would like to introduce a notion of judgment quotient, which really reflects how smart you really are based on the choices you make.
It's an interesting point that you make, though. You say the first time you sort of engage in this behavior that has negative consequences, I guess you can choose to either learn from it and change your behavior going forward. What is the problem then with not learning from it and continuing to make the same bad choices? What is compelling you to continue to make the bad choice again and again?
That's a great question. In fact, if you unpack, how do you learn? Learning comes from experience, people say. But if you don't reflect on your experience, then you don't learn anything. Then you keep repeating the same mistake. And people say, why do people keep repeating the same mistake, expecting different results? And they call that insanity. And that's where it really belongs.
So reflection is the key.
Reflection is the key. And things like high levels of stress, addiction, and an inflated ego can really prevent and get in the way of your reflection ability.
And you say there are drivers of bad judgment. 2 of them are on the cover of your book, Pig and Ape. Explain what those are acronyms for.
See, again, I'm not a psychologist. I call myself a recurring engineer. And so I had to come up with some acronyms to make it memorable.
Yes.
And pig and ape are both animals, but they also mimic the behavior. So the pig stands for our drive that moves us towards pleasure or instant gratification. So it's pursuing instant gratification. And ape is we like to get away from uncomfortable situations, and that's our drive to avoid painful experiences. And the third element, which is on vertically on the book, the big U, is also your inflated sense of self or your real sense of self, which we also try to feed or protect. And these are all survival skills that helped us in the past, but today in the modern world, I don't think it necessarily serves us the same way.
And these are things that you teach at the ChoiceLadder Institute. Now, tell us, is there hard science behind this? Is it a combination of psychology and other sciences?
Actually, that's a great. Usually I've found that it's an integration of multiple disciplines that really bring good insights. So over the past 30 years, I've been very familiar with systems thinking, which is very long-term, balanced with neuroscience, which is your more near-term, what do you do, how do you deal with it, flanked by behavioral economics as well as social psychology. So that's where this thing basically kind of
It's fantastic. And do you think then, from reading a little bit about your work, that people concentrate too much on the big picture decisions? What career should I go into? Who should I marry? Rather than the day-to-day little decisions?
I think you said it all. Because what happens is we get obsessed. Our mind gets consumed with those big choices or big decisions, and we kind of ruminate in that space. The only thing we can control is the next thing we can do. And if our head is elsewhere and we're not here, how can we choose what's right now?
So a great example is, yes, worry about who you marry, but then think about day to day how to work on that relationship once you're married.
Or how do you look at that person? How do you respond to that person? Do you frown every morning?
Right. Right, all of those little things. Fascinating work, Krishna. Thank you so much for coming to see us today.
Thank you.